Hi everyone, John here again, and I wanted to do a little bit different of a video today. I want to talk about Allan's sounds, his clean sounds, his delays, and his lead sound, and it all pretty much stems from one unit, which is the Yamaha Magicstomp. So I had bought another one of these last week, and I said to myself, you know, I gotta update it and everything, so I might as well do a video about how to update it because it's a little tricky how to do it because the software and everything's kind of old. Then I said, well, a lot of people, especially when I bought it, weren't really familiar with all the different sounds Allan used from it. And if anyone's trying to get his lead sound or any of that kind of his swell sound, this is really the pedal to get. And I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't familiar with it, so there might be people out there that don't really know that. So I want to go through Allan's history with Yamaha and his sort of live setup towards the end of his life, and how much he really relied on these sounds, and how simple it really is to set up once you update it and everything. So yeah, let me go through Allan's history now. So first, I just want to talk about Allan's live setup. It's relatively simple. Of course, when you get into the details of it, it can be very complicated, but the general idea is actually relatively simple. Allan really has only three main sounds that he uses. He uses a clean sound, of course with some delay, a lead sound, which also has some delay in it, and his swell sound. Now, he's using 4 amps, 2 dedicated to stereo lead and 2 dedicated to stereo clean sounds. And both amps are on at the same time. He's turning them sort of on and off by volume pedals. So both, let's say, are off and he wants his clean sound, he puts up the volume pedal up to 10 or whatever it is, you know, when he's playing his clean sound. And then when it's time to play leads, he rolls back off of the volume pedal and then turns the lead volume pedal on, and he's got his lead sound. So you can even combine them at the same time, but that's what he was doing. He was always using volume pedals to control the sounds. Now, towards like the late 80s, I don't know, I'm not really big into Allan's gear, but I know he was using, at least into the late 80s, early 90s, Mesa Boogie amps, which I think was actually personally my favorite lead sound of his, and also a lot of rack delays for his clean sound, and even for the swell sound. But I think Allan's history with Yamaha started in about 1994, because I believe when he was on tour in Japan, he was sort of introduced to the Yamaha DG series, and actually I believe worked with them to create some lead sounds and you know, just sounds in general just to use it. And it's interesting because the amp that Allan used, the DG1000, which is a head version of you know, Yamaha made, was used on None Too Soon, which was recorded in 1994, and also on 16 Men of Tame, which was recorded kind of sporadically between, I think, 94 and 96, I think, I actually was told. But the Yamaha DG series wasn't officially available yet, and even live, Allan wasn't using it up until about 98 when they were available. But if we look in 1997, that's where I'm going to start Allan's sort of timeline with Yamaha. We can look at what the gear that he was using at the time, and he's using a Mesa Boogie head for his lead sound, and he's got all of his rack-mounted delays for his clean sound, and also he's using a VG8, a Roland VG8 MIDI pickup. One of the reasons why he was using that was not only just to get some different sounds, like on 16 Men of Tame, if you watch that video, the top 4 strings are actually harmonized, which you can only do with the VG8 or a MIDI pickup. But for his lead sound, he's not only using the Mesa Boogie, but he's also using, I believe, like some sort of horn sound from the VG8, and it's because Allan actually wasn't really happy with how the Fat Boy sounded. So in 1997, he's not really using any of the Yamaha stuff. He's just using the Mesa Boogie with the VG8. Now we get to 1998, where the DG series is actually, I think, released officially in combo form. So they made a DG80 112, which is just an 80-watt combo, and a 212 that was 100 watts. And if we look at this still here, Allan's now starting to use it, but he's still using the rack-mounted delays, and he's also still using the Roland VG8 to blend in that sort of horn sound along with the Yamaha amps. Now in 1999, the head version, I think, of the DG series was released, not the rack-mounted version, but it's the DG130, which is just a 130-watt head. But now in 1999, Allan removes the VG8 from his live sound and is just using the lead sound from the Yamaha combos. So his lead sound's coming from the DG guitar combos, and for his clean sounds, I'm not quite sure what he's using, but he's still using all those rack-mounted delays. And that sound seemed to be pretty consistent. You can see in 2000 he's pretty much using the same thing. And then in that's about consistent to about 2002. Now in the year 2000, the DG Stomp is released, but there's one big problem with that, at least for Allan, is that it does not have high mid and low mid setting. Now if you look, this is what the DG Stomp looks like. It just has bass, middle, and treble. But if we look at any of the DG1000 or the combos, they all have high, mid, and low mid control. And I believe for Allan's lead sound, this is really sort of like the secret sauce in there. So he did not use the DG Stomp, and even if you want to buy it to get Allan's lead sound, I don't think you're really going to get that close, because you really need those high and low mids. Now in 2002, the UD Stomp and the AG Stomp are both released. Now I found an interview online with someone that worked at Yamaha with Allan on these, and he talks about when Yamaha tried to make the AG Stomp, they contacted Allan about creating some chorus patches for it, and he said, hey, yeah, I guess I could do that, but I have all these rack mounted delays. It'd be really great if we can put it in one pedal. So the guy took that and then made a unit out of it and added some other things to it and sent it to Allan, and Allan really liked it. So that was the birth of the UD Stomp, and Allan even created a whole bunch of patches just for the UD Stomp, which unfortunately was discontinued in 2004. So the UD Stomp is what Allan eventually started to use for his delay sounds. So not only the swell sounds, but the just regular clean delay sounds, and also using them for his lead sound as well. So all delays are coming from the UD Stomp, and his lead sound is coming from the DG amp combos that he was using. So in 2003, Allan finally got rid of his rack-mounted gear for his delays and started using the UD Stomp again for travel reasons. It just makes everything more convenient for him. But he's still using the DG amp combos for his lead sound. So all of his delay sounds are coming from the UD Stomp. So that's his clean delays, his lead sound delays, and also his echo. But the actual distortion is coming from the DG combos. And he'd use 212s and 112s depending, I guess, on the size of the room. But also in November of 2003, this was released, the Magicstomp. And what's great about this is Yamaha took their UD Stomp pedal, their AG Stomp pedal, and their DG series of amp sims and created and put them all into one unit and created the Magicstomp. So that Magicstomp has the UD Stomp settings, the AG Stomp setting, even though Allan wasn't using it, and all of the DG series lead sounds. And it also has that high and mid on there. Remember, the DG Stomp is the only one that doesn't have that. But pretty much all of Allan's lead sounds and his echo sounds, or the delay sounds, are in just that unit. But the firmware was still kind of early, so you had to do editing on the computer. And also, there's no headphone jack with this one. So even though the Magicstomp is available in late 2003, 2004, Allan's live sound is now using the DG combos and now using the UD Stomp delays for all of his delay settings instead of bringing all that rack mount gear. So it's still relatively simple, just making everything more compact. Then in 2005 and 2006, Allan switched by, instead of using the DG combos, he's now using the DG1000 rack-mounted head, again for convenience. And I think a primary reason why is because I've never seen one, but I've heard that the Yamaha DG combos were notoriously heavy. So now he just has a rack mount head of the DG1000, and now he's using the UD Stomp for all of his delays. Now I'm not sure when this happened, but I think it's in 2006. Yamaha released the acoustic Magicstomp along with the bass Magicstomp and an updated version of the guitar Magicstomp. And all of them are identical. It's the presets that are different. But what separates the newer versions and the old ones for the guitar is that the newer ones all come with Firmware 2.10, and the biggest thing that introduced was you're allowed to edit the patches directly on the unit instead of having to hook it up to a computer, which is, we'll talk about a little bit later, why that's a little bit annoying, especially nowadays. And what's great is that all of these Magicstomps internally are identical, so you can take any firmware from any one of them. The guitar one is purple, the acoustic one is kind of like silver gold, and the bass one is black. So you could take the bass one, the black one, and flash it for the guitar firmware if you wanted. Of course, Allan just used all the purple ones. It didn't really make a difference, but I think all of those were released in 2006 with the updated firmware, and all of them, including the guitar one, has a phone jack on the top of it. The original Magicstomps don't have that, but when they're upgraded, they're identical as well. So, like I said, 2003, 2004, Allan is using the Yamaha DG combos and the Yamaha UD Stomp, and then 2005, 2006, he replaces the combos with just a DG1000 head, so DG1000 head and the UD Stomp pedals. But then by 2006, 2007, Allan then starts to introduce the 6 Magicstomps that everyone sees, obviously. Once again, this unit. Now, the reason why Allan used the 6 was because when you use one of these pedals, you can't use multiple patches at the same time. So, like, you can't use the lead sound with the chorus sound if you want. That's why Allan had 6. Like I said, he had 2 amps dedicated for clean, a stereo clean, and 2 amps dedicated for a stereo lead. So, one Magicstomp was used for his clean delay, one Magicstomp was used for the echo, the swell sound, one was used for Allan's actual lead sound, the DG sound, the distortion sound, then another Magicstomp was used for delays for the lead. So that's 2 Magicstomps for that, 2 amps, and then 2 Magicstomps for the lead sound and 2 amps because they're both stereo. Then Allan had another Magicstomp for effects, like maybe he'll use like a harmonizer or something kind of wacky like that, and another for backup. So once again, why did Allan sort of get rid of all that stuff and get to the Magicstomps? Just convenience. So he can just bring his volume pedals and his Magicstomps and go to a place and rent. I'll just give me 4 twin reverbs or 2 twin reverbs and 2 Marshalls, and then just have to use the Magicstomp. So he was going to tour and using rented gear, but only really having to bring just these Magicstomps. But they all have the same sounds, and that's what's kind of the beauty of it. So you won't need all 6, you could just use 1. Of course, I mean, if you're using, if you want all that sound, you got to hook them all up, and that I don't know how to do. But I'm not sure how many people know that Allan's actual lead sound and his delay sound are all in just this unit. So Allan pretty much used that settings of the 6 Magicstomps up until his passing in 2017. So since about 1994 till 2017, Allan was using the Yamaha DG series for his lead sound, and since about 2002 using the UD Stomp sound. So that's almost 25 years of pretty much his sound being consistent, because he's just using different iterations of those sounds to make it more convenient when he's out touring instead of lugging all of this gear. So that's Allan's history with it. But now I want to talk about some of the problems that the Magicstomp might have when you're trying to use it today. So a couple of the issues that the Magicstomp has is the sometimes the buttons don't work that great, but that's actually more mechanical than it is digital. Sometimes it just doesn't make a strict contact. So I actually, when I bought mine, I had to put a little rubber pad underneath it, and sometimes the LCD screen behind it actually doesn't work right, and that has to be replaced. So luckily that hasn't happened to me. But that's kind of like a real pain in the butt to kind of replace. But the biggest issue is really updating it and creating the sounds for it, because the software was basically introduced in 2003. It only really works if you're using Microsoft XP. So luckily most Windows systems have an ability that you can roll back the operating system to an older version, like an older version of Windows. So that's what I have on mine. There are people that make software for it to work better. I guess there's maybe like some sort of drivers or something like that so it can hook up to the computer, but I haven't done that. I just use mine as it goes into Windows XP mode, and I have it set so every time I hook up the Magicstomp to the computer, I can actually use it. And that's where all the software editing is really done. You can do it on the Magicstomp, and I'll show how that's done a little bit. But it's so much easier when it's you have a user interface, because then you can see everything and kind of click what you want to do instead of sort of moving through patches. But it's not essential. You can still get you could create Allan sounds on there as long as you know what they are. But one of the things that's great about hooking it up to the computer is that you can save it as a file. So all of Allan's UD Stomp settings that he used are available online. They're also available, like you can actually get a printout of what they all are, what is actual, how long they are. And what the great thing about the Yamaha does is that it has 8-band delay, which most delays don't have, but it's 8 individual control delays. So like for example on my Kemper, you can set like the feedback and all that stuff, but only on one, and then all the other bands of delay, because there's a 4-band delay, is just a percentage of what the original is. With the Yamaha, it's basically like having 8 delay pedals at once. So you can set the control, the pan, all that stuff individually, and that's why it's so sought after, especially the UD Stomp. So I said the UD Stomp was discontinued in 2004, and they only made it for a couple of years. It costs about $700 now if you wanted to buy it. So what makes this so great, again, is the cost. The cost of it is relatively cheap. I got mine for about $150, $100. You can get a pretty good deal on. But some of the other gear, like the Yamaha 80 watt, is like $300, and the combo is like $350. The DG 1000 head is like $500. The combo, the 212 combo is like $700-ish. The UD Stomp itself is like $700. So, like I said, a lot of this stuff is fairly expensive. Or you can get the Magicstomp that has all those things combined in there at once. So as I said, hooking it up to the computer is kind of a pain in the butt, but I figured this would be good to actually show people kind of how it's done if they have trouble with it like I did. Now, if you don't know how to get your computer to run into XP mode, I don't know how to do it. I figured it out, and then I set it once and I don't have to worry about it again. So you have to look elsewhere. So if you can get that running, if you get the software running, I'm going to show you how to set up your Magicstomp. Now, what's interesting is you need to use a Yamaha MIDI player because it updates through MIDI, and then the actual MIDI file that will update your Magicstomp to 2.10, which is the last firmware that they did, and also has the onboard editing if you want. There's a bass, acoustic, and guitar one that's the firmware is 2.10. So you could get the guitar one and then update any one of the Magicstomps to be the guitar firmware. So you'll have all the patches and presets, like if you bought it normally. So let's hook it up, and I'll show you what to do. Alright, I apologize for the drop in quality, but I'm using my phone now just to make it easier. So I've got an acoustic Magicstomp here. And like I said, the internal guts to this is for all the Magicstomps are really identical. All I have to do is just change the firmware. So that's what I'm going to do today, and add the UD Stomp presets that Allan's using, and even show what his lead sound was. So what's interesting, in order to turn it on, there's no on and off switch. You actually have to push the plug in, and you can see it says Magicstomp AG for acoustic, and it's got the 2.10 firmware. So I'm going to put the guitar 2.10 firmware on it. Another important thing, that if you use a DC power adapter, the unit will turn on, but you won't get any sound. You actually have to use an AC, or alternating current one. So if there's any Magicstomps out there that are broken that don't get any sound, it's possible you're using the wrong AC adapter. And a lot of these things have to be done by holding 2 buttons and then pushing the AC adapter, putting the power on. So for example, if you want to factory reset it, you have to hold on, off, and store, and then put the plug in. So I don't have enough hands to do that right now, so I'll just set that up first. Okay, so after holding on and off and store, I put the power on, and it says right there, factory set. So I want to factory reset it, press the plus button, and then are you sure? Push the start button. Alright, completely redundant, but I wanted to show that anyway. And even you can see that it has all the acoustic preset patches on here. I did test this, it does get sound. So all I'm going to do now is just update the firmware. So now to put the guitar firmware on it, you have to put it in, I guess, a different kind of mode. So you would hit the minus button and store at the same time while plugging in the power. So I'm going to do that quickly. Okay, I just did that, and that's what it says. Pload v2.0 connect USB. So now after you've done that, you've got that on your Magicstomp, you have to connect it through USB, and you need one of those old-fashioned USB cables. So that's another thing you're going to need before setting this thing up. So now once it's hooked up to the computer, it'll automatically say UB99 Pload v2.0 version 2.0 now waiting. So at this point is where you're going to use a Yamaha MIDI sequencer to transfer the new firmware through the USB cable, because it works on MIDI. So all these files and stuff you can get, and I'll show you where to get it later. But if you're having problems, say, getting the software to work, I'm not sure if I can help you too much with that, because all the stuff I have already works. Alright, so at this point, the Magicstomp is ready to receive the new firmware. So you have to use a Yamaha MIDI sequencer. And there's one called MID radio, a MIDI radio. Then once you open that up, you have to go into the options menu, and you have to set it to use MIDI device Yamaha MS1-1 or Magicstomp 1-1. So now that that's done, it can actually transmit the MIDI information. Now we have this file here, the UB99 MK2 version 2.10. This is actually the firmware for the guitar Magicstomp. So right now we have the acoustic firmware inside, and now we're going to take this, drag and drop it there, and now it's going to start transmitting the information to the Magicstomp. So at first it'll say now clear, and then receiving H with all zeros. So now what's happening is that the Magicstomp is just getting the MIDI information. So this is going to take about 15 minutes. Okay, we're almost at the end of the update. And there we go. Now that it says complete, the new firmware has been put on the Magicstomp. So let's try it out. Alright, just turned it off and then turning it back on. Now it says regular Magicstomp. Wait a moment, and now we have the distortion, or at least the guitar presets now. So, it worked. Now that I just changed my acoustic Magicstomp to a guitar Magicstomp, I can start adding in some user presets, specifically Allan's UD Stomp settings. So this is where I said you have to use the sound editor for Magicstomp, and it only really works in Windows XP. So when I double click this, my computer will already be set to XP mode and open up. If you have trouble with that, I'm not sure how you would do it. I know they make different softwares or different drivers, so it'll work on a more modern computer, but I have it set up for mine, and I don't know what I did, so I'm just going to leave it. So after we double click it, you'll see that it will open up. Now this is what's important. You have to get the program to recognize the Magicstomp. So I had to just figure this out again. You have to use this little thing here, Magicstomp setup, and you have to include the UB9, Yamaha UB9 for both these. You can even do, I'm not even sure what this is, but I'm going to click it anyway. So now that you've done that, you have to go into setup. Then you can see that here the MIDI ports are set to recognize the Magicstomp. So now what I can do is I can now receive or transmit any of these presets. So just to show you, I'm going to receive them now, what the user presets are on here. So it's calling all the patches now. Getting in all of our patches. Now that it's gotten all of our patches in here, you can actually see them, natural, vintage. These are the acoustic ones that were set there before. So now I want to change them, and I want to start adding in Allan's UD Stomp settings. So I could do open. No, don't want to save that. And I can go into Holdsworths sounds. These are the UD Stomp sounds. When I open them, here they all are. Lead, echo, swells, all that stuff. And then once you got that, you just transmit. And it's now going to transmit all these to the Magicstomp. Okay, now it's received all the patches. Now you can see all of Allan's choruses and all of his presets. So now we have all the UD Stomp settings. These are all the delay ones. Now I'm going to talk about his lead sound. So one important thing to know is that Allan never actually released a patch for his lead sound, but I don't know how long ago, I guess it was on an old forum that somebody had emailed Allan about his settings for the DG80, and Allan emailed him back. That guy put it up on the forum, and then luckily this guy saved it and then uploaded it to another forum when someone had asked about Allan's sounds. You could see here. So really glad that he saved it, because these settings might be lost to time. Now to help verify this, another person on the Unreal Allan Holdsworth Facebook group bought one of Allan's, I don't know if one or it's the one, DG1000 amp, the head, and you can see Allan's settings here. And you can see they're basically identical. Like, the only difference is that there's a little bit of a tweak in the high and low mids. And I think that's because obviously the DG80 is a combo amp, is going to sound a little bit different. But even with the Magicstomp, each of the main Magicstomps, the clean delay, the swell delay, the lead delay, and the lead sound itself, I believe he had all different variations of them depending on the room that he was playing in. So it wasn't like there's one patch and that's it. He would use different patches or different ones depending on how the room sounded. So anyway, let's let's go to the computer and let's try to recreate this patch that Allan gave his settings for. Now that we have the Magicstomp set up with our computer and our computer can recognize it, Now that we have the Magicstomp set up with our computer and the computer can recognize it and we can transmit information back and forth, let's start to make a lead sound for Allan. So a friend of Allan's, Chip, had mentioned that the preset long sus lead is very similar to what Allan had used, and we can use that as a starting point. So if we go all the way down, we'll see long sus lead, long sustained lead, I would imagine. And you'll see that it's a amp sim, multi-amp sim with chorus, and these right here are the knobs that you would see on there. So if you want to change any of these, let's say you want to just be able to control the high, middle, low, middle, you'd have to do it here and save it, because you only, out of all of these options, you only get 3 to actually keep up here. So on top of this, we have the amp sim, speaker sim with noise gate, compression, chorus, the type of chorus, I guess sine wave, delays, and reverb. Now, as I said, Allan got all of his delay sounds from the UD Stomp or other Magicstomps. So this isn't necessary if you're using another one, but if you're not and you still want to have something extra, then you can probably use it here. I'm just going to turn all this stuff. So reverb level 0, delay level 0, chorus level 0. Compression, I'm not sure how the compression is actually being used for Allan's. It might just be off completely. So I can't, I mean, distortion is compression anyway, so I can't comment on that. And then noise gate to be whatever you want, and speaker sim. Now, I had also asked Chip about Allan's settings, and this can simulate a bunch of different types of cabinets. Allan always used his off, so you would turn that off, and now we're actually at the amp type. Now, if you look at that little email that Allan had sent, he uses out of these lead 1, so that's already sent here. Gain would be, he wrote from anywhere from 5 to 10. So let's put it at we probably put it at 6.5. Of course, that's up to your wanted. Now the next thing, the master, how loud you want it. He had it at 7. Let's just put that at 7. Type it in. Yeah. We'll put that at 7. We'll put the lead at 6.5. Now we have treble. The treble was shaved off all the way to 3. This is kind of like what Allan called his sort of shaving a haircut. So we'll put that down to 3. Then the high mids and the low mids. And like I said, I think this is where that secret sauce was for Allan's actual sound. So I'm going to do the DG 1000 settings to put both of these at 6. Oops. Now the bass, Allan had all the way down to 0, which is actually kind of surprising. It's so dark sounding. And then the presence, he had at 1. So put all the way down to 1. Come on. There we go. The tone, I'm not sure what that is. I don't think Allan had a setting for tone. So I can't, once again, comment on that. I guess put it at 10 if you want, or just, leave it up here, and then you can adjust it accordingly. But then that's it. Now what we could do is we can save it. Where we could do like store. And it's like, well, where do you want it to be stored? So let's store it here, and we'll call it AH. So now AH lead is now stored in our user settings here. See? AH lead. You can also change and move some of these around. So like, for example, that swell sound, instead of it all being all the way over here, you can, let's say, drag them all the way down to be right next to here. Let's just do that real quick. So I'm going to take one of the swell sounds. Let's take swell 1. And we're just going to move it all the way down here so it's next to the lead sound. Where'd it go? A little bit more. Okay. So now we have the lead at 73 and the swell at 74. Once we have that done now, we can save this whole thing as its own sort of preset. I just overwrote my own Holdsworth sounds thing. So you can just save it there, and then what you would do is you would now transmit this to your Magicstomp. So we'll do that now. All right, so now that we transmitted all of Allan's settings, let's go all the way up. And let's see, to get to those lead settings, which is, I think, 73, 74, if I remember right. There it is. 73 lead. That's what it sounds like. And even the swell. So if I just turn the volume off of my guitar and swell it in. Yeah, just that simple. And then let's say, if we go here and he said, oh, the gain was too much, obviously you can just adjust it here. You can see it was already set to 6.5 and say, all right, I'm going to save it. Let's say I want 6. That's fine. Store. You hold it for 1 second. And that's it. Now it's stored in there. And of course, if you change it on here and want to transmit it to the computer, you just transmit all that data, all your bulk presets here into the computer, and then you just overwrite, because it'll save it inside your computer, then you just overwrite your original save. So it's really just that simple, then you can adjust it. Of course, these 3 settings up here can be whatever you want them to be. They don't have to be just this. I don't know what Allan had. But you can go from there and say, oh, you have one for gain, maybe one for master isn't important, or one for tone, maybe you have one for, how much delay or something you want on it. Now the next thing I'll show you is how to actually edit a patch directly from the Magicstomp. Okay, so not only can you edit what you had before, but you can, let's say, go up to one of these default ones here. And then what I could do is you can just hit store once. And now when it says press the store for 1 second, you actually press on and off. And now you get to this, which is actually saying, edit the knobs to whatever they be, but it's not telling you what to set it to. If you hit on and off again, now when you press up and down, you can set it to what we had before, as you saw when I opened it up before, and you can set the different, the distortions or the amp sims. We have it right here, distortion, digital distortion, amp simulator, core, etc., etc. So let's say amp sim. Then you hit store. So now it knows to do that. And now when you press up and down, it's telling you right here what amp you want it to sound like. It's a different hand. And I can change it here. Heavy, I'll go all the way on the bottom here. Heavy 1, heavy 2, lead 1, lead 2. So let's say lead 1. The gain, if we're trying to get that Allan sound, you got to go to, say, 6. The master was on, I forgot what the master was on. Let's do 7, I think. Then, and it's telling you right here, these are like the pages. So that's like the first page that we did. Then we hit plus again to go to the next page. The tone, I remember I didn't know what it was. The treble was at like 1, but you could see that's how you're at. The high mids are, you know, 6, etc. And all the different things are here. The noise gate, you know, well, that's because we didn't use the amp multi-course. We're just using a regular amp simulator. And then that's that. And then you would store it, and I think from there, I forgot how you would actually create the name. But now you have that sound, and then of course you could just, you know, create the gain or whatnot. But I would suggest not using it on there, but that's how you can do it. And I know that there's probably a way to edit the name. I'm pretty sure if I just hit this again for store, oh sorry, if I just hit it once and then hit on and off, I can go back and adjust it here. Game master, what if I do this again? Amp sim, yeah, it's just telling me all the ones, but I know there's a way to change the name, but I don't remember how to do it off the top of my head. But at least that's how to get those sounds. I'm pretty sure you can find it with here, just doing something like this. You know, and then even for here, you could say, roll the knobs. You could say, well, what knob do you want this to be? Well, instead of being the tone knob, I want it to be, you know, the treble, and then knob 2 is the master, and then, I don't know, I want this to be something else, just amp. Store that. Yeah, and then now you have all this stuff, and you can amp. It's just going to tell the different type of lead that you want on it. So you can do onboard editing, and you can put all in Allan's presets here, but of course it would take so much longer. It's just easier to do it from the computer, as long as your computer can recognize the Magicstomp, because the software is so old. So that's it. That's all of really Allan's sounds that he was using just within those Magicstomps. Everything's right in there. It's just a little tricky on how to use it because the software was so old and the technology was kind of old. So when it comes to the files and what files to use, you can go to the Yamaha Magicstomp Collective Facebook group, and all the files that I used are there. They have the flashes for acoustic, bass, guitar. They have the manuals. They have the Allan presets, other presets, all that kind of stuff. Even the software editor they have, and the only thing that I don't think they host is where to get that MIDI radio. But I'm pretty sure you could find it online. I didn't really have any trouble trying to find it, but it's possible that it's in the group too. But if there was a way, if someone's got an idea how I can just freely host it, if anyone needs them, I can make a little thing and host it and put it in the description. But yeah, that's it. All of Allan's Magicstomp stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video, learned something cool, get some cool sounds out of it, and I'll see you next time.